That's the sign. We are back, and good to see you again, everybody. Really sorry for the short delay due to some technical problems, but you had now double as much time for your double espresso. I really hope you enjoyed it. This is the second half of our forum on the second day, and I have some panelists coming up and sitting close to me, a few steps away, safe behind the wall. Is Ana Garcia. Ana will be the presenter, the moderator of the upcoming panel. Ana, and we have a very, very special topic you specialized in, and we're going to talk about Data Spaces Business Alliance. What is a Data Space Alliance, Business Alliance?
Yeah, hello Moitza, and also welcome to everyone. So yes, the Alliance is a cooperation. It's a cooperation in between different associations, communities, mainly European, but also worldwide, that work on data. And they all work in developing ecosystems, data ecosystems. And we are joining forces. And together we bring cross-industry expertise, we bring also research, know-how, assets, and together we are stronger also in raising awareness about data spaces, really showing different technical solutions that exist, showing all the different pilots and activities that are already running, and really helping different industries to integrate data spaces. So we think we can accelerate this together. So these associations are GaiaX, are also FIWARE, International Data Spaces Association, and Big Data Value Association. And we were very lucky this morning, Moitza. We had with Sophie Proust from Atos. She mentioned the Alliance, and she brought a very nice diagram. And actually, when companies talk about us, that gives us a lot of purpose, because we are here to create impact for companies and to create impact for society. And I have to say, we are not alone. It's the four of us, but there are many other friends out there, like, for instance, My Data, for instance, e-governance, for instance, IoTI, and there are many others that are there, and we will collaborate with.
Yes, and you have really chosen very interesting panelists for today. What will you be talking about in the panel?
Yeah, so today, now in this panel, we go into action a bit. So we will also start talking about the policies, the European data strategy, and we are very lucky to have today with us Federico Milani, Deputy Head of Unit of the Unit G1, looking after data policy and innovation, and he will elaborate on this European data strategy, but also some important implementation aspects. Then we will also have other colleagues from the Andrea from the ICT Association, and she will bring us here in Slovenia, bring us more to the reality of the companies and the communities. And then I'm very pleased that we have here the representatives from these four initiatives, and I have to say it's a pleasure to work with them. I'm very honored that we are very committed to work together, and I will introduce later on, but we have with us Francesco Bonfiglio, CEO of GaiaX. We have also Ulrich Ale from CEO of FIWARE. We have Lars Nagel, CEO of ITSA, and we will have back our president for the Big Data Value Association. And together we are very committed to make this work.
Yes, and this was a bit of a warm-up for you as well right now, doing well. Ana, it's your time. Take the stage.
Thank you. So I would like to welcome first Federico Milani. And Federico, as I said, it could be very good to know from your side, to know a bit more about this European data strategy, in particular the data spaces, the European data spaces, but also what is coming up in terms of implementation actions. And thank you for joining us today. The floor is yours.
Thank you for having me, and good afternoon to everybody. Thank you for your introduction. As you said, we are the unit responsible for implementing the data strategy, and as we have announced in the data strategy, which has been published in February 2020, we had a number of initiatives that we have announced. First, some legislative instruments to promote and to foster the use of data and the sharing of data. And one of them that has been adopted already and that is being under discussion by the co-legislator is the Data Governance Act. Hopefully, we are very close to the adoption to the agreement between Parliament and Council and of the Data Governance Act, thanks also to the Slovenian presidency. So we hope that soon we are going to have the Data Governance Act adopted. In the meanwhile, we are working on the Data Act that will try to foster a fair use of data and fair sharing of the values of data, especially when this data is co-generated. So it's produced, for example, by devices that are managed, that are used by companies or individuals, and we want that both the companies that has developed the devices and that are collecting the data, but also the user of the device will have the possibility of exploiting data. But these are the legislative part that we have been presented several times and we will follow. What has been recently happened is also the adoption of the Digital Europe program, which is our financing instruments for the creation of data spaces, which is one of the other biggest challenges that we have presented in the data strategy. So what we are going to do there, as announced in the work program, we are going to invest in the next 2 years, 400 million euros for really supporting the creation of these data spaces. And we are using them and we are trying to doing it from different angles and taking different aspects of the data spaces. Because as Anna was saying, we want to go fast and we want to have the creation of these data spaces in the shorter period possible. So one of the first things that I want to talk about is how we are going to progress by building the technological infrastructure. What we've done, the Commission so far, and my colleagues in the unit that is working on cloud and edge, is first of all started to launch a European Cloud and Edge alliance that will look at what are the basic infrastructure that are necessary to build up upon these data spaces. On top of it, using the Digital Europe program, what we are going to do is also to support and finance the creation of what we call a smart middleware software, open source, that could be used and will be used by the data spaces to build the basic infrastructure of the data spaces. So we are going to provide the software, the basic building blocks, in order to be able to build upon this data, the software, the data spaces. But we are not stopping there. What we want to do in parallel is also to mobilize all the various communities and stakeholders in all the various sectors, so that we can have also the stakeholders starting to identify the architecture that they want to put in place, the governance mechanism, and the rules and the contractual rules that are necessary in order to be able to build a data space where data can be shared in a trusted manner and where the data holders will be in full control on who can have access to their data and for which purpose and under which condition the data can be used. So with that, we are going to finance a number of coordination support actions, which are very short. So they are going to last 1 year, and we are already going to launch them in several data spaces. In overall, we are covering in the Digital Europe program for the first 2 years data spaces in 15 different sectors. Which spans from the health sectors to the tourism sectors and to the manufacturing, to the mobility. So there are plenty of initiatives that we are launching. How do we coordinate all this? Well, we want to coordinate all this, and we want to have all the stakeholders sitting at the same table and discussing how this can be developed and how we can assure interoperability between all the development of these data spaces through what we call a data space support center. Now, the data space support center will have three main roles. First is, as I was mentioning, create this network of stakeholders by involving all the various stakeholders, all the coordination support actions of all the specific sectors, and all the projects that are going to be funded, so that there will be a place where there's the possibility to discuss, identify common requirements, and make it possible that all the stakeholders will have the possibility of finding a common ground how to build these data spaces. The other part, as I was saying, is apart from creating the network, is making the network, identifying the common requirements, and identifying architectures that could be used in order to develop these data spaces that will be different depending on the sectors, most probably, and how the data can be accessed. You can clearly imagine that the data and the sharing of data in the tourism sector, on the health sector, will have different requirements in terms of security, in terms of access to the data. And therefore, we want that the data spaces support center anyhow will be able to find common grounds and common elements so that there will be interoperability between the various data spaces. And then the last part that we want to have by the data space support center is to create a platform where there will be exchange of knowledge, where stakeholders and where the major companies that are working on data spaces will be able to provide support to companies, small, medium enterprises that wants to join into a data space, and really to support all the participants to get to the major objective of building up these data spaces. And with that one, I stop here so that there will be time for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Federico. This is a very exciting time for data, and we can see that many people will be busy, and including people from your unit. Congratulations for all the work done. So now we move from the European policies and implementation actions, we go local. And we have here, I'm very pleased to have here with me, Andrea Lampe, and she's Director of Projects at the ICT Association. We have been collaborating so much also to build this event, and I'm so pleased to have you here. But now, Andrea, for you, because you come representing the ICT Association, the companies. So tell us a bit more, for these companies to enter into this data economy, what are the opportunities, what are the challenges? And of course, tell us a bit more about your ecosystem.
First, thank you so much for opportunity to welcome you in my hometown. I wish it would be with audience also, but nevertheless, thank you so much. Firstly, maybe a few words about association. We have about 200 members. Our main mission actually is to bring opportunities to them, to help them monitor and pick the initiatives where they want to build upon. I'm really happy that lately not only companies from ICT sectors, but also companies from other sectors are joining us, which means that the digital transformation is really becoming topic also for the non-digital sector, and this for me means that now we will be really starting the digital transformation. Other than that, I would say data spaces are key to data and digital economy, and also the common European market. And in digital economy, the winner takes it all. We have a digital disruption, we have the COVID disruption, and those disruptions together means a major opportunity for new for new winners. And let's seize this opportunity for Europe to regain the leadership, to regain the digital sovereignty. And I'm sure that many of those new winners will be on the reusing or using of secondary data and artificial intelligence. To go a bit to the sector, to the companies, ICT sector is extremely busy right now. It's very hard for them to follow initiatives. It's very hard for them to bridge the gap of the skills, of the ICT professional skills. So they're mainly focused on market on fulfilling the market demand. They don't have luxury, especially SMEs, to follow the initiatives. Even on data and artificial intelligence, we have many of them. So this is where associations like us, business support organizations like us, steps in. Our mission is to monitor the global initiatives, to find which are relevant, which one will prevail, which one is building on the European values, and which of them are only there for seize the opportunities and for the profit. So I would say I'm extremely happy that I would call them the big four of data. My co-panelists to take the leadership, to take the initiative and collaborate to found the Data Spaces Business Alliance, to bring together all the initiatives, or let's say all the major initiatives around the data, and I'm expecting that we will get tangible, concrete tools which will help the SMEs, let's say, to catch up and to take the data economy. I'm really looking forward to see what's coming. Really tangible results. I would also like to touch a bit the data literacy. In Europe, we are so behind, even on basic digital skills. It's very hard for people to take part in the decision process about or future making on the data economy if they don't have even basic digital skills. And we need to upgrade those to the data literacy also. For example, in Slovenia, we have companies and SMEs with absolutely no idea about the data economy or digital economy on one hand, and on the other, we have an organization which lands the third on Gartner's ION Innovation Award this year for their initiative, the data DNA transformation. So data DNA transformation. And we have everything in between. I guess with all vast investment coming and also the legislation package coming in, we really need to focus how we will not leave everyone behind, how we will build the fair and ethical data economy and and business models around the data. So this would be my big concern.
Thank you very much, Andrea. And you give us a lot of purpose, and you put a lot of good things on the table. And I really like very much this closing with the data literacy and also this inclusiveness that we are building this data economy and needs to be ethical, and we don't need to leave anyone behind. So with this, thank you. I jump and I introduce now Francesco Bonfiglio. Francesco, you are the CEO of GaiaX. Thank you for being with us today. And you had your summit like 2 weeks ago. If I'm not mistaken, and you also were talking about the alliance. You were presenting the alliance, and you had a lot of discussions about the data spaces and the data economy. What can you tell us? What can you bring from the GaiaX summit to us, and also tell us a bit about your ambition of GaiaX in this implementation of the data strategy?
Thank you, Anna, and sorry for not being there with you in Ljubljana. I think this is a great opportunity, actually, to talk about data because of the moment or the momentum we're building. We heard from Federico the enormous opportunity we have through the DEP, the Digital Europe program, and the amount of investments that European Commission is putting on the table. But more in general, I would like to talk about what I'd like to call a new movement for data ethics in Europe. And this is the way I like to think about GaiaX and actually also the DSBA, the Data Space Business Alliance that we have just created through the alliance of BDVA, FIWARE, IDSA, and GaiaX. I think that we are living a moment where it is true what Andrea was saying. We are lacking literacy on data, but we need to be aware that this literacy will not come through just technology skills. We need to be aware that the overall economy nowadays in Europe and in the next 5 years will dramatically change. So we are going into a dramatic change of the value of products and services in the market. What I mean is that we should not just look at the direct revenues, the direct value of the market share of digital economy, which is simply the sum of the revenues of the companies working on technology, system integration, data, etc. But actually, we should look at the induction of this market into the normal, if you want, the analog or physical ecosystems. So when we think about a car versus a smart car, a fridge versus a smart fridge, or anything that becomes smart one way or another is building a value on top of a traditional product or service that, according to the estimates, will become a substantial portion of the price to market of that product and service. In 5 years, the estimates say that 50 to 70% of the value of products and services will be directly or indirectly produced through the data. Now, if we understand this, we understand that what we're trying to achieve with GaiaX and with the Data Space Business Alliance is a new opportunity for Europe to preserve not just the IT market, not at all, but actually the overall economy, the real economy, employment, the future of entrepreneurship, the education, because one way or another, we will become dependent on digital platforms. So one of the key messages out of the summit of 2 weeks ago, you're right, Anna, I would catch the message that was clearly given by three very esteemed guests. One was the director, Roberto Viola from DG Connect. Another one was Minister Peter Altmaier from the German government. And the third was Minister Bruno Le Maire from the French government. They made their own speech, and it was extremely interesting. But the common message they sent were two. One, they referred to GaiaX as a point of convergence of all the initiatives around Europe that started already 2 years ago, and they see us making significant progress. So they made a call to action to make GaiaX services, which are also the objective of the Data Space Business Alliance, come true. The second message that I captured and excites me a lot because I truly believe in it, they said that Gaia-X is not just something for the industry or the public sector. It has to create a change for citizens, for the civil society. And this is what I've been talking about before. So I truly believe that we need to translate the theoretical concept of a data space into something that the small, medium business, first of all, the industry, but also the citizens understand as the only way to maintain competitivity in the European market and in the overall market for Europe, leveraging the incredible power of our knowledge, our competence, our small, medium business, our startups that has no equal in the world, but suffers one simple major problem, the lack of critical mass. So exchanging data across actors to build a common value that provides earnings to all of them, exchanging infrastructures across players around Europe that makes them capable to compete with the broad markets, create a unique opportunity. And we are here, and together with the Data Space Business Alliance, we really want to create an alliance, not just from a technical perspective, not just from a theoretical perspective, but from a very pragmatic perspective, trying to find the best opportunities around Europe for creating data space projects, try to rank them according to their probability to succeed, create an impact in Europe, and help them moving from inception to deployment. This is the purpose of our alliance, is the purpose of Gaia-X, and I believe is the purpose of our representatives in the European Commissions and in the member states.
Thank you very much, Francesco. And thank you also for bridging in between the Gaia-X Summit and the European Big Data Value Forum. It's important that we tell the story through our different events. And with this, I would like to welcome Ulrich Alle, CEO of Fiverr. And Ulrich, from the Fiverr perspective, what do you bring to the implementation, to support the implementation of the European data strategy? What is your ambition on this domain?
Yeah, hello, Anna, and hello to all of you. As you know, Fiverr originally was designed by the European Commission and its partners from industry, from research, to create open source technology on the one hand and open standards for the future internet on the other hand. In the meantime, and this endeavor started 10 years ago, and in the meantime, this vision has materialized. E.g., for example, by the Context Broker, which is now a SAF building block driven by the unit of Federico, NGSI as a standard interface, as a standard API for data management, or the smart data models, where hundreds of data models have been standardized in the meantime. And this is used to create data spaces and smart solutions nearly in the meantime all over the world, nearly on all continents. For example, in the domain of smart cities, more than 250 cities in 30 different countries are creating their smart city, their digital platforms and data spaces, in that case, based on Fiverr technology. And I think we have some really proven building blocks we would like to bring into this endeavor of the Data Spaces Business Alliance. And maybe let me use a story from India. So not from Europe, from India, to illustrate the business benefits of such an approach. When Prime Minister Modi was elected for the first time, that was back in 2014, he quite soon identified the topic of digitization as very important for India, also for Indian cities. And he started the 100 Smart Cities mission in India. And in June 2015, so quite soon after, a total of 98,000 crore Indian rupees. This compares to $13 billion, not million, $13 billion was approved by the Indian cabinet for the development of these 100 smart cities. And then the big consulting companies of this world came supported the cities in creating their strategy, brought first tenders to the market, supported the implementation of first solutions. And 2.5 years ago, the Indian Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs, who is responsible for this program, identified each city has built its own silo. There were only little synergies between the different data spaces the cities created within their city borders. And the wheel has been reinvented several times using public money and public funding. And this was a moment when he said, we need to change our strategy. We need to change our way to digitize Indian cities. And sometimes you need to be at the right place at the right moment. And I was invited by the World Bank to a smart city conference in New Delhi. And a similar panel was in that time shared by the state secretary who was responsible for this 100 smart cities program within the ministry. And after he listened to the 5R approach with standard APIs, standard data models, open source, he came to me and said, we need to talk. I had a meeting the same night in the ministry. And since 1.5 years or close to 2 years, the 5R Foundation, together with some partners from its ecosystem, is supporting the India Institute of Science in Bangalore to create first the architecture for a standard smart city platform in India. And then we did the implementation, which is piloted in 10 cities in the meantime. And earlier this year, the Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs, together with the Technology Minister, announced this standard smart city platform as the new standard for Indian cities, not with intention to replace the existing 100 ones. They have done their implementations, but with the ambition for the remaining 4,200 large cities in India. And I think this is an example how the adoption of open source, of standard APIs, of standard data models, and especially these two elements are breaking down the data silos. How this helps to create synergies and also to speed up the implementation of real-world data spaces. And as I said, our ambition is to bring in this existing software building blocks, the real-world implementations. We have here the experience also from bringing benefits to citizens, to companies, and to contribute this to the overall endeavor of the Data Spaces Business Alliance.
Very good. Thank you, Ulrich, and congratulations for the progress of 5R, and also a very good example. This example of the cities in India help us is very illustrative of how.
And maybe Anna, if I may,
of course.
There's one country in Europe which is following a similar way, requesting their cities to apply to standard API, to apply to standard data models when driving the digitization in their cities. And you are sitting actually in this country because it's Slovenia. Slovenia is the first country in Europe following this path, and for me, a blueprint also for other European countries. Sorry for interrupting.
No problem. We are in a panel. We need to interrupt each other. So it's good to give us purpose also for those ones that are like me here together here today in Ljubljana. So thank you, Rick. And now from 5R, we move into the Big Data Value Association again. And we have today again president of BDVA. And Thomas, tell us what is BDVA doing to support the implementation of the European data strategy? What is our ambition in this collaboration?
Okay, hopefully you can hear me. Also warm welcome also the persons Francesco, Ulrich and Lars about back to Italy or Germany or wherever you are sitting. Good to see you at least remote again. Last time we've seen us, for my case, was also remote by the GaiaX Summit. That's the first. The second topic is, in my body are somehow two hearts. There's the BDVA art and the GaiaX heart, because I'm also a vice chairperson of the GaiaX. And thanks to Andrea, maybe Francesco, you not knowing this, but Andrea was a person who making the Gaia X Hub in Slovenia happen. And I was also during this event remotely connected. This is only to give you a context. And what is the ambition? I phrase it a different one. I would start, let's say, with the ambition that we want to create impact, because also coming from industry, we want to achieve something to create impact. And you know, I have also a number in my mind that only 20% of the data are used at the moment for improve existing processes or businesses, but and this I am 100% agreeing with Francesco, there are huge additional opportunities where we, when we are not careful, will be bypassed. This was a 70% what he mentioned before. And having this in mind, you know, we have had, it was during summertime, also not long ago, a meeting and saying, come on, let's put our heads together. Let's put the head together and saying, okay, we have the Gaia X, we have the Fiverr, EDSA, we have BDVA. Andre, I have to thank you. Now you're giving us a name. We are the Gang of the Four, or however you explain this. But we're sitting together and saying, okay, let's do it. We ignore everything around. We put our hands on. Maybe an approach which I like, and just started to describe this, to write it down. And I can tell you, this was done in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, don't ask me. And we have the signature process and done. But, and this was also the important topic, is what Francesco mentioned, but it's not only a paper, we are doing this. So we have also, thanks, not myself, because I was only indirectly involved, filed a roadmap what we want to achieve. And what BDVA can do is, BDVA is, you have the data infrastructure, you have the data spaces, you have the value to get out of the data, because at the end, with the value, you get the information, the impact, and think about my first word, where you can create impact in different domains. So meaning, and BDVA, natural, the name includes the name Big Data Value Association, and that's exactly what we are coming to the area to support this joint initiative with the value part to create impact. And to be honest, regarding data spaces, we have also some kind of data space ideas inside BDVA, more, let's say, on a one level. Gaia X, the similar one. We have the connectors. Just bring our heads together, what we want to achieve. And when you ask me from BDVA, we have the value part. We are also from the topics what we have achieved, partially complementary. I don't care about the partially. I think we are very complementary in the one or the other side. And the overlapping point, to be honest, I don't care, because at the end it doesn't count, because we want to create together impact. We have done some history of projects which we can bring in to this, I want not to say adventure, to this journey. I think it's a better way, journey. And last but not least, we have also regarding data ethics, some kind of data wheel, where for sure one of my next talk will be with Francesco, how we can elaborate out of this and really push it together forward. Because, again here, impact, value, bringing the achieved topics on the table and just doing it.
Excellent, Thomas. Thank you very much. And now I would like to also invite Lars Nagel, CEO of International Data Spaces Association. So thank you for being with us today, Lars. And tell us also from your side, what is the role that ITSA brings to the general implementation of data, of the European data strategy, on also to this alliance?
Yeah. Hi, Anna. Hello, Thomas, Francesco, Ulrich. Thank you for hosting us and giving us this great opportunity. So many experts on data spaces on stage today. So what is left open for me to say? IDSA, we bring a certain component, certain item to data spaces, so trust and interoperability. I will come to that later. I would like to reflect on our joint endeavor, and I would really like to underline once again that we are standing in front of a true paradigm shift. So it's not only us, 4 organizations, and probably several other organizations which have come across that data spaces are obviously necessary to leverage the potential which we do have in Europe's and even in the global economy. Well, that is written in the European data strategy. So 6 years ago, when you were asking someone about data spaces, no one really knew what data spaces. And since well, I would say 2.5 years, data spaces are all over the place. Data spaces are, well, happening everywhere. Everyone is discussing about it. And now first data spaces are really evolving. And so the Commission is supporting this tremendously. And well, the 4 of us, the big 4, I like that term, from Data Spaces Business Alliance, we want to promote and to facilitate that we really well, leave impact and leverage this big potential. Because, well, let's reflect once again on a data space. Why is data spaces such a cool idea? Because data spaces are the representation of a true federated and fair environment to share data. So it's a protected environment in which participants can freely share data by adhering to clear rules. And with that, we protect something we call data sovereignty. And this can only, well, be done for transparency and fairness reasons. And with that, we can generate economic value. And how can we really generate this value? Well, by providing and combining as many data sets as possible. So this is the cool thing with the data space. We can enlarge the pool of data, share data cross-sectoral, and really do more than was possible before. Well, what is missing? Well, the infrastructure behind. So we need something like the GSM for mobile communication or the SWIFT for banking. We need this for data sharing, and not for data sharing like emails, for data sharing like really valuable data sets. And that is what we have to set up. We can call it a soft infrastructure or smart middleware, as it is called. So we need this. And this, well, soft infrastructure, it will be invisible to the customer, to the people out there, to the companies. And this is also cool with data spaces because we can combine any data endpoint which is out there. So a data endpoint from open data, a data endpoint from a smart device, from a wearable, data endpoint which provides data from an individual, from a citizen, or from a company and a machine in a factory. And we combine all of this, and then we create value. And this is what we have to make happen. And well, it's us organizations to, well, make sure that we come up with a common framework for these data spaces, which entails a holistic approach. So not only, as mentioned, the technical and functional things behind, but also the operational, the legal, and the business-oriented aspects of that. And well, that is what we bring to the table. So we do not only know how to build a data space, we know how to run a data space to make it happen. And one crucial thing is, and that is what we have to jointly activate everyone out there. So in front of the monitors, all the people and companies out there, what we have to do is to motivate everyone to share data, because still most of the data is not shared. In personal environment, it's different. So all my photos are on Facebook, right? But in a professional environment, companies, they are still hesitant to share data because they don't know what happens to their data set once they have shared it in an unknown environment. And that is what we have to overcome, come up with a framework for data spaces, which delivers the trust and the insight and the acceptance from companies that it is okay to share data. So there's no regret sharing data, and that is what we really want to stimulate. And well, the question must be, do I plug in to a data space or not? And it is us to come up with this soft infrastructure, with this thorough foundation to, well, embrace everyone there, to reassure everyone and say, it's fine, you can share your data because we take care that your data is safe and that only this happens to your data what you want to happen. And well, that is what we all together have to make happen. We want to stimulate the growth of data. We have to massively speed up on that end. And one core aspect there is to come up with a common framework for data spaces where we harmonize and align our architectures and our frameworks, and then clearly and very soon deliver and build data spaces. So we need components, building blocks, everything what Federico said at the beginning, and with the 4 organizations, we have, well, really a lot of this in place, and we are there to deliver soon. And that is my ambition and my hope for next year to really see, next to data spaces like Catena and Mobility Data Space and Smart Connected Supply Network, really to have more of these great examples, and probably the smart cities are a rearm to be watched.
Thank you very much. Really, Lars, very good. Something now I would like to call all the speakers, but I want to comment on something that has happened already. So I have been asking each of the speakers about tell us more about you, and instead of talking about me, we were talking about us. So this is already a great achievement. I have to say how important it is that already when we are introducing the Alliance, we are giving already the floor to this common space. And that for me is actually something that I'm very impressed. So thank you for these introductory speeches. So now we go into a bit of a discussion. And I want to also welcome our audience, because I know, I mean, you are there behind the cameras, we are here. Also, some of the speakers are not here. Many of you are in B2Mat, and you know, please post some questions. I don't think we will have much time, but we will try. And if not, we will do later. But we are here for you, so we haven't forgotten you. And now for our panelists, let's cover 3 topics. And I will start with the topic of ecosystem and cooperation. And I'm going to start again with Federico, because I want to ask to Federico, what is your perception from the European Commission about this cooperation that is happening now in between different associations?
Well, as was mentioned already by Francesco, and what Roberto Viola, my Director General, said, I think I can just repeat it. So we are very welcoming this cooperation, because we know that the deployment of data spaces, so the creation of data spaces, can happen only if all the stakeholders are working together and are defining the bits and pieces that are necessary to create a data space. It's not going to be a very simple exercise, although there is a will to make it happen, because of all the point that you've heard. So you have to build an infrastructure, but you have also to create an environment of trust between the data holders and the data users. You have to create an environment where the company that wants to share data think that they get a fair return on sharing the data. So it's quite some work that needs to be done, and all the major association, stakeholders, industries, public and private organizations are really very welcome to work together, because it's the only way that we can put it together. But I want also to answer to 2 points that Andrea made before. By building up data spaces, we want really to work and make possible that small and medium enterprises will have access to the data. It's a way to open up the data and not letting it handled by the major platform. If one of the major objectives is that if a small medium enterprise enter into a data space, they will have the same possibility of accessing the data than anyone else. And the other part that I wanted to mention that I forgot is that in the Digital Europe program, we are also taking care of the lack of skills, because we are going to launch a call for proposal for 70 million for creating masters for what we call digital masters, so master in specific topics, among which there is artificial intelligence, high performance computers, cybersecurity, and data analysts, which they are what I'm asking to the university that are here in this panel, is to get together and really develop these masters, because as you've heard, there is the needs of specialized people that will work on data.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Federico, and I'm very glad that you are addressing again the topic of skills. And indeed, the support in particular to small and medium enterprises is key. And it's very good that we are also discussing this topic of the fair data economy, and therefore we really need to make sure, as we were commenting before, that we don't leave anybody behind. So we continue with the aspect of the collaboration, and now I'm asking Thomas, Lars, Francesco, Ulrich, in this order, if it's possible. Why is this happening now? Why are we collaborating now?
Good question. Next question. No, serious answer. Let's say we created, and in this case, I put my second heart in my body. We created GaiaX beginning of the year. We're setting up a significant momentum, as a sense for urgent. And also some ideas, and I think it was Federico who just mentioned this, and I can only tell you the story. I was some months ago at the EMO at Milano, and an EMO is a machine tool builder conference where maybe a lot of small and medium-sized enterprises are inside, and they are very well aware that they have to share or to do something with data. Let's phrase it in this way: to do something with data. Existing process, or what Francesco explained very well, what are the 70% in the future, which we have to look for future topics. And they're always saying, we need some security, trust, control, portability, and. I think Francesco can now continue with the topic, and this is now on the discussion. So meaning we have also some kind created some sensitiveness around this. So, meaning now we have the right time. You can ask me, would this be possible, or had it not been done last year? Yes, but for sure not next year. So, meaning the association are existing. Therefore, they have values to put in the association. Value, industrial AI, corporation, linked to standardization, whatever you mention. They have hubs. You know this, we're just speaking about this. So it was just the moment and the sensitiveness of the community is here. And that's, also I'm myself also getting from the company perspective requests. Small and medium-sized enterprise, let's say a lot of our customers or suppliers, sorry, I put now the Siemens side again away, but they are looking, okay, you're doing this, that's great, because then you have an access point, and I think Francesco mentioned the single stop shop, I think was the name, hopefully I phrased it correctly. Now they have it, and they have the different pillars together: infrastructure, data spaces, value.
Okay.
With the constraints which we have.
Thank you, Thomas. I see the forces are, around the dialogue at the different topics really are, it's like an attraction to a very good, important moment to collaborate. Lars, what is your viewpoint? Why now? Why is this happening now?
Well, it is not happening now. It has been happening since over 2 years. Now we have announced it, and we have we have delivered, and we really took leadership and put ourselves in position and said, okay, we are the go-to place when you want to build data spaces. So we have been collaborating already before in bilateral setups with BDVA, FireWare, and we have been with Gaia-X before there was Gaia-X. We are also happy with what happened with Gaia-X because it was desperately needed. If you want to build data spaces, you need a lot of ingredients, right? So I always compare it to a restaurant, right? So at the end, we want to eat good food. So everyone has contributed something. So perhaps IDSA, we have brought the stuff and the oven, and FireWare, the cutlery and plates and the furniture, and BDVA, all the recipes and the ingredients. But we need someone to run the restaurant, to organize all of that, and to have the sign at the street so you can get food here and come in, and someone has to take care that it's really delicious and someone uses the stuff and the oven and so on, right? So, and therefore we have this perfect fit, that is what I would say, with the 4 organizations. So we can more or less represent the full stack which we need for the data economy to happen, and definitely to build the data spaces. So we are inclusive. We are representing more than 1,000 organizations and companies all over Europe, and also all the relevant other initiatives and organizations which are out there are related with us. So we can make sure that you really have a great experience when going out and dining. And therefore, I would say we are a perfect fit. And now, so the question after that now is, we have to make data spaces happen. So obviously, time has come to really build the data spaces, to really go the next evolutionary step. And therefore, we may not end up like the cities in India, right? Having silos once again. And that is what we have to make sure with our one-stop shop experience.
Thank you, Lars. I'm enjoying the answers to these questions, so I will continue. Francesco, why now?
You're on mute, Francesco.
Yeah, Francesco, I think you're muted, so if you can put your microphone on.
Yeah, sorry. I say I can go for the easy answer. I was not here 1 year ago, so I just joined this year. So why now? Because I just joined in this role. No, jokes apart, I believe that the answer to your question is a combination of a few elements. One is the momentum. We are living a momentum here where we understand for the first time what data space can do. I'm not saying that we understand exactly how to build a data space, and that's why we decided to ally together. But people start to understand that data spaces can really revolutionize the future of the digital economy, and I keep repeating myself, the real economy. I make a very simple parallel when I explain that. Data spaces stand to data like open source stand to products. And I believe people have not yet understood the power of open source, which is an incredible booster. And somebody still believes that owning the intellectual property is better than sharing it and focusing just on the high level value. The same is happening with data spaces. Once upon a time, people tried to retain the data for themselves. Now people understand that without the data of the full supply chain, the full value chain, you cannot build value. You're hitting the roof. So we have the momentum, we have the maturity, because associations like BDVA, IDSA, FireWare, all of them, but Gaia-X, have been there for a while. So they had the time to understand, elaborate, and also find the limits, because all of us are very synergetic because we are complementary. So now we are mature and we understand that we have just one message. No need to have different messages. The third element is the opportunity. And we have heard from Federico, and we know all is going on. We have the real opportunity to make a change. So now is the time to avoid fragmentation and dispersed messages. We need to converge into, as much as possible, common stories, common projects, and focus on something that create real impact, like Thomas said. Last but not least, synergy. We couldn't make it if we wouldn't be synergic. And I have to admit that this is happening now, but it doesn't come for free. I mean, I haven't seen in the past many associations like ours joining together very happily, sharing resources, ideas, and assets in such an agile way. And I come from the business, so maybe I have not enough experience in the associations. But to me, this is really unprecedented because we decided that synergy is better than isolation. So all in all, I think that we can only fail. But I truly second what Andrea said in terms of advocacy or literacy. We need to make sure people understand what we're doing, because this is not something for academy. This is for the real life. And I'm sure that everybody wants to hear that story through concrete examples, which we are going to focus in our plan of execution.
Thank you very much, Francesco, and thank you also for sharing this agile way of collaborating that we have. So I have a bit of experience in associations, and I haven't seen anything like this before. So I can confirm, at least from my experience, that it's unprecedented what we are doing and the energy that you all and we all are putting on this. You said momentum, maturity. We have also Francesco, so it's the now. But I would like to go to Ulrich and to know why the now from your perspective, Ulrich. What else can you add to this?
Yeah, let me maybe put another perspective on that. We are starting this now, or we have started it now due to Corona. Corona has shown to a lot of end users how important digitization is, how important interoperability is. If you look, for example, at Germany, at the public processes, if you look at the coalition contract of the new government in Germany, it was published end of last week, 172 pages. On 92 of them, you find the word digital. And this is completely new compared to 4 years ago when the last government was created. So on the end user side, on the public side, in manufacturing industry, in energy, it is clear that sharing data, that digital solution is of utmost importance to further support the business processes and to create resilient business processes, to create resilient cities, to create resilient companies. And data spaces play a very important role in here. And these data spaces need to be interoperable. And this is the mission of the Data Spaces Business Alliance, to use open source technologies, to use open standards to create interoperable data spaces. And with this, to enable the data economy. And data economy requires data sovereignty, that people are willing and able to share data, but also that the creator of data is able to benefit from their data. So monetization of data is very important, because open data does not automatically mean that these data are for free. They need to be accessible, but for some data, they contain a value, and companies would need, and also people would need to pay for this data. And this is also one of the targets of the Data Spaces Business Alliance, to come up with instruments, with mechanisms to enable the monetization of this data. And with this also to create the sustainability for the data spaces which are in place, and Lars mentioned already some, and which ones will be created in the future.
Thank you very much. And really, you all brought very different perspectives, but complementary. So I'm happy that the question of the now came, because I think we all learned from different perspectives. We have a very little time left, even when we started a bit late as well. But I'm going to jump very quickly on the impact before we give visibility to the things that are upcoming with the Alliance. And for the impact, I want to ask both Andrea and Federico, And this links with something that I think Francesco mentioned before. So it's impact, of course, of data spaces into SMEs, into all companies, but also society. So we want to create impact in society. And Federico, Francesco, and several of you said that. So I want to hear from you, Andrea, and after from Federico. Really, what do you think will be the impact of data spaces in society, going beyond the companies?
Let me first comment on Ulrich. Magic happens when people collaborate every time. And in a case Ulrich was mentioning, why Slovenia advanced so much is because we open the discussion between the stakeholders. The initiative came from the companies. And then also what is really important, the government supported this. The government opened the dialogue with the digital sector, with the communities, and listened. And our stakeholders said, look, we take a look across the Europe, what are the initiatives, what we have to follow, and they listened. And at the end, for our companies, it means when they develop solutions according to the, let's say, Living in EU initiative, or according to the data spaces rules, let's say, they will immediately have advantage in the market. So it's really, really important for us to follow those initiatives. And thank you guys for being so active. Well, we are following GaiaX and FIWARE and and the BDVA. This is why we want to hear directly from the European initiatives and bring this as soon as possible to our members, to our communities. And I think as quicker as we will be, the biggest impact will be on the communities, because they will not invest, like in Slovenia, we have 220 municipalities. Do we need to invest in 200 open data platforms or mobility solutions? No, we don't. We don't even need to invest in that many APIs like developers interact between the applications. We simply have to have the data space to integrate the solutions.
That's excellent, Andrea. I think because really we are running quite short, and instead of asking you, Federico, now for the impact on society, I'm going to jump into the last point. That is what is coming next for the Alliance, and that way we can communicate what is coming up. But before going to that, just asking you from the European Commission, do you have any expectations from the Alliance towards you? What would you like to see in the next few months from the Alliance? And then we will tell what is coming up. Federico?
Well,
yeah, okay.
I think, no, I was thinking actually, what we are expecting from the Alliance and all the organizations that are working on the data space is really embrace the various activities and become very active in really defining the data spaces and implementing them. We are pushing, and we are doing it through, as I was saying, the Digital Europe program. We are moving now into the deployment phase, but we cannot do it. The Commission cannot do it by itself. So it's really organization like yours getting together, involving the stakeholders, as we mentioned, involving SMEs, and responding to the needs and to the requirement that we've heard also from Andrea. This is what we would like to hear from all the major companies that and organizations and associations that are working on the data space. So really move to the deployment phase.
Excellent, thank you. I think maybe we have some messages for you to close. And I will go one by one with the four organizations. Very short, please. I will ask you what are we delivering now with the Data Spaces Business Alliance? And each of you cover one point. Thomas, what is coming up with the Alliance? What can we inform to everyone?
Very short, we have first of all a joint roadmap. That's the first topic. And one part of the joint roadmap is we have also different hubs. Different style of hubs, we have to say, and we want to have a map of the hubs in January. I counted up, maybe we have 100 hubs around the globe, so to say, also. And when we just providing a hub, then we can help immediately enterprises or see what is the gap with the hub.
Excellent. So hubs collaborating together. Ulrich.
Yeah, we are working, or teams from all the 4 organizations are working on a common reference architecture to build these data spaces, identifying building blocks as much as possible to be used in different verticals, in different domains, but as less as necessary. So to find the right momentum here. Is it an easy job? For sure not. For sure not, because there are so many interests, so many companies, so many other organizations. But I think, as Lars mentioned, we are joining forces of more than 1,000 companies and organizations here. And I'm pretty sure we will be able to create clearly a momentum in the creation of data spaces. And the first reference architecture is available in January of next year.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Francesco. With your microphone on, please.
Yep. That's the typical sentence. You are on mute.
Yeah.
So I think we mentioned already a couple of the most important things. We're putting together the people. We're putting together the hubs. We're putting together a framework, and we are putting together one message, one voice. So you can think about the DSBA as a kind of new. Don't get me wrong, it's not a company in strict terms, but we want to have a sales message, which is the story of data space. We want to have a common framework, which is the combination of the tools and assets we have to build data spaces. And we want to have a go-to-market, which is the combination of the hubs. So I think an important thing to do that is the radar. So we are developing a radar of opportunities that allows us to identify, based on KPIs, those opportunities that have higher probability to become concrete projects. The story I keep saying is moving from use cases to business cases. So the radar will be, it's already well defined, but it will be finalized as well by the beginning of next year.
Thank you very much, Francesco. And Lars, tell us more about the radar and all the things.
Yeah, well, the radar will be the foundation to really add support where it is needed and where we can leave most impact. So that is why we do this. So we need visibility, then we can scout, and then we can support. And it's not us as non-profit organizations to support, but we need really strong partners, facilitators, implementation partners, to make data spaces happen. And that is a big thing. So we have research and technology organizations, we have the consultants, we have system integrators. So they are related to all of our organizations, and they are those who can facilitate and support data spaces to really flourish. And this must be based on the common framework as we have laid out, so that we do not end up in silos. So that is what we have to make sure, to come up with a clear deployment team, which is visible, which, is this go-to place. And the radar also follows the purpose of, giving visibility, and therefore it's a baseline for matchmaking for all the people, companies, organizations out there, because that is where we started. Data spaces are the sum of as many data endpoints as possible. So therefore, with that, we enlarge the pool of data, and with that, we can make AI and big data really happen. So that is what we have to make happen. As many participants in data spaces as possible, and they must be interoperable, cross-sectoral. That is what we have to make sure. And therefore, please join our radar. You will find it on our social media channels. all of us will benefit from more visibility what is going on in the realm of data spaces. And we will also organize matchmaking events so that you can meet each others and really build big data spaces.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much, Lars. Just to close, to the colleagues on the table, we are showing now the graph. And this is just connecting what Lars was saying and also what Federico was also saying, and showing this agile collaboration. We would like to announce that in 2 weeks, 16th of December, the 4 organizations, also together with others like My Data, we are organizing this kind of brokering, matchmaking among our communities, everyone, really to strengthen all the projects and proposals for Digital Europe program. So keep an eye on the announcements, and also thank you to the IDSA team for building this visual. And with this, I would like to invite again everyone, and thank you very much. It has been a great panel. I'm very glad that I'm here with you. And sorry that we are a bit late, but we also started a bit late. And I hope we can continue this collaboration on the same way. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
and see you very soon.
Bye-bye.
Mojca, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anna. You really feel well, right?
You're very well.
Wow. Excellent moderator we have here in our studio. I would just like to say we see you in 5 minutes. Give us a bit of a time that we prepare everything for the next panel, but stay on our radar. We'll be back in 5 minutes. And meanwhile, you can see some statements of members of the BVDA board. So see you soon.
Hello everyone. My name is Harald Schöning. I work for Software AG. Software AG is a provider of data management solutions, including a world-leading IoT platform. We also engage in BDVA. It's a pity that we cannot meet in person today. These days are so busy with initiatives around data, Gaia-X, the European Open Science Cloud, the upcoming IPCI on cloud infrastructures and services, just to name a few. We, the community of industry, science and the European Commission, must collaborate to harmonize all these initiatives and create synergies between them. Let's work together to make sure that Europe stays an important player when it comes to data utilization.
Now we have the screen.
Please have an enlightening and inspiring EDBWF, despite the limitations that are set by the pandemics. Have fun!
Dear ladies and gentlemen, in the EBDWF, I would like to welcome you. I am Walter Weigl, the Vice President of the Huawei European Research Institute, and we are a member of BDVA since 2015. I'm in the board since 2017. Saying this, we are very active in AI, data and cloud research, and hence we are very grateful that we can sponsor the event again. So thank you to the program committee and also to the European Commission to give us this chance. On the content, we believe that BDVA DIRO is so far really the place to be and to discuss about AI, data and vertical application research between different stakeholders, and we are very committed that this will stay for the future and that we will have a very positive influence on the success of the AI PPP. Now we have challenges. On one hand, here in Europe, this is a worldwide big AI rush and data science rush. So how to position ourselves, and we want to contribute via BDVA to the AI strategy of Europe. We have to look into large industries, small, medium enterprises, and work together from different industrial AI sectors with research. And we are again committed to do so further from Huawei. Just as an example, we have done together with partners one of the biggest big data health-related research projects in the last years, for instance with the Rotunda Hospital in Dublin. Now saying this, I would like to wish you all a very successful event. This is the place to talk about cooperation and to discuss, and my colleague Jason will be giving a presentation in the Industrial and Trustworthy section, because this is one of the most important topics. We may see regulation about AI and data usage, and we have to be here on the safe side. Thank you very much. Have a nice event.
Hi everybody. I hope everyone is enjoying the conference so far, either from home or from behind a screen, unfortunately. We've witnessed an acceleration of digitization recently due to the global pandemic. This has posed great opportunities for data and AI, but has also exposed some gaps and flaws. The advantage data and AI can bring are enormous. Think of sustainability of smart products and smarter production lines, new AI-generated insights and scientific breakthroughs, or increased anticipation and resilience in society due to a better knowledge position in government and industry. Equally, however, we need to be careful in the potential harms such technologies as AI and data can bring. Think of psychological harms such as screen addiction, social disconnection, manipulation, harms of de-skilling, losing local or tacit knowledge, and dehumanization in forms of automated decision-making. Or even physical harms when robots running on faulty AI can cause accidents on the shop floor, or when self-driving cars don't sense and interpret public spaces the way humans do, for example. At TNO, we work on and want to help leverage the EU goal of developing trustworthy AI and meaningful human control in that AI. And thereby we want to stress the following topics that we see as important for the coming time. 1. Human-machine teaming and hybrid AI as a basis of trust. We need to become better at combining expert knowledge with data-driven knowledge. 2. The role of responsible AI in relation to the upcoming AI Act. Understanding how to develop AI governance is a key challenge for the coming time. And 3, finally, the importance of effective data sharing for the development of good AI. All too often we see in practice that verified datasets to train AI models on is lacking or insufficient. Getting this right is a crucial step. I wish you all a good continuation of the conference, and I hope we can meet soon to further discuss these challenges on trustworthy AI on or off screen.
Hi, everybody. Now we're really ready for the next panel. Speeding up industrial and trustworthy AI is going to be the topic, and all our guests will be online. It's my pleasure to welcome the next moderator. We're going now live to Munich, and we'll greet Professor Dr. Sonja Zillner from Siemens. She is also leading the development of strategic agenda at the BDVA. Sonja, I hope you're well. How is Munich today?
Hi, Mozza. Munich is white, very white, and it's snowy and windy. Yeah.
Greetings from sunny Ljubljana.
Ljubljana.
Yes, over to you, Sonja. This is your panel, and we'll enjoy.
Yeah, thank you. So I just wanted to motivate while we're talking about this topic. I mean, we have been talking about AI since many years, that we see many opportunities, value that we can generate out of AI. We also learned that trust in AI is crucial in order to ensure the adoption of AI. And I mean, trustworthy AI means that we need to ensure that it's safe, that it's reliable, that it does what we promised that it should do, that it's lawful, that it's respecting human rights, right? So basically, we also seen that there's now a new AI Act coming up, so a proposal for an AI regulation that was published in April this year. And the point is, or the question is now how we can implement such a new regulation. In general, what we observe that regulation and innovation, we need to find the right balance. And it's also a way forward where many perspective needs to be integrated. So for that reason, I'm very happy to have different speakers from different perspectives here in the call, and we can discuss this topic, how to speed up the implementation of trustworthy AI. There will be a lot of cost involved, time involved. We need to build up new expertise, resources, infrastructure. So basically, one of the main questions which will lead us through the session is how can we join forces to speed up what is needed and how we collaborate. So we have great setup of speakers here. So I want to introduce first Drusilla Scioli from European Commission. Welcome here. It's from Noja Boyema, who's representing more the industrial perspective. Also, she has been researched before. She's from IKEA Retail, working there now. We have Julien Gironi, who's like central in France to build up AI ecosystem. Welcome here to join the session. Milan Petkovic from Philips, who's also professor for AI. So basically he can represent this perspective. And Asuncion Gomez Perez from Madrid, from the University UPM. She's professor there and can indicate us upcoming research challenges. So welcome everybody here on board. And I think we will start first with some statements that you have prepared. And I would like to start with Lucilla. Lucilla, you're the Director for Artificial Intelligence and Digital Industry at DG Connect. You have been working since a long time in the area of AI, pushing this and putting aspects forward. So how is the European Commission supporting the adoption of industrial AI, trustworthiness for industrial AI, and how do they ensure to speed up?
Thanks a lot for the question, and thanks a lot for inviting me to this event. Let me recall that the European Commission or the European Union has a very important objective in terms of the adoption of AI, which is about making the European Union becoming a leading hub in the development and the use of human-centric AI. And this is a very important objective for us, which sometimes is criticized because I am often told, look at the United States and China and how much the European Union is lagging behind. How in the world do you ever think that the European Union, without the big platforms, can actually be one of the leaders in AI? And my answer normally is that I strongly believe that one of the comparative advantages, one of the important assets the European Union has is actually its industrial sector, and so its capability of developing AI for industrial applications. And when I mean industrial application, of course, I'm thinking of manufacturing and transport, but I am also thinking of more kind of services sectors, just I think of financial services and healthcare services and others. So I think the European Union is very uniquely positioned in achieving this kind of leadership. And it's for this reason that the European Commission, together with the member states, puts in place a number of measures to support this kind of developments in AI. And it does that through a program which is called the Coordinated Plan in AI, which was actually just been revisited and published together with the regulatory framework that you mentioned earlier in April 2021, and which includes support from the point of view of research. For example, from the point of view of industrial research, there is a new public-private partnership, which is called ADRA, and which looks at AI data and robotics. And it's very important for us to be able to exploit the synergies between these three different areas, because of course artificial intelligence needs data, and it can be often embedded in robots or other machinery. And so the fact that we look at these complementarities and that we bring forward our research in the three areas, and that we are able to integrate these different areas and these different angles is very important for the future developments. But then what the European Union is also doing, always with member states, is to introduce new facilities which are actually bridging the research and innovation stage with our capabilities to bring innovation to the market. And this is going to happen through a new program we have in the European Union called the Digital Europe Program, which will be supporting testing and experimentation facilities in AI, which will target manufacturing, agriculture, smart cities, and healthcare, and which will be very important to facilitate the testing of these technologies. Sometimes the real barrier to be able to achieve the market fast is exactly our capability to test and validate, which can be limited because there are data sets that are missing, or simply because there are no facilities that are very similar to real-world settings and which allow this kind of experimentation. We will also be setting up what we call an AI on-demand platform, meaning a one-stop shop for resources in artificial intelligence that can be used in particular by small, medium enterprises and by public administrations for free, and also with the help of the digital innovation hubs, which are organizations that help SMEs and public administration to digitize. And there will be some hubs that will be particularly devoted to artificial intelligence and interconnected with other facilities such as supercomputers, cybersecurity centers, and so on. So we have a number of important measures also relating to skills, as we, of course, need to develop and retain talent in the European Union, that we do in very strict cooperation with member states. And this constitutes what we call the ecosystem of excellence for AI. But the ecosystem of excellence for AI, and for AI to be used, we also need to have trust. So for the trust, we have also looked at an ecosystem of trust, and in particular through the regulatory framework on AI that you were mentioning earlier. This framework is risk-based, meaning that it is only addressing those artificial intelligence applications that may carry some risks in terms of violation of safety and of fundamental rights. It identifies a very specific list of high-risk use cases, and it proposes to follow and introduces basically a mechanism whereby artificial intelligence applications that are high risk are checked and documented before they're actually placed on the market. So these are rules that apply to a very limited set of applications. As I said, applications that in our opinion may have an important impact on our fundamental rights, and is under discussion at the moment in the Council and in the Parliament. It's a first in the world, and we're very glad to see that through this regulation and international collaboration, we are also succeeding in influencing the thinking in terms of trustworthy artificial intelligence we have been leading in the European Union. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Lucilla, for this broad overview of all the initiatives the European Commission is driving and also to drive trust in Europe. I would like to lead over to Nosha. I mean, you are now working at IKEA and in the responsibility of a global data and AI ethics manager. So probably trust is one of the core topics here you're pushing forward. So I would be, I mean, at the European level, it's on the risk base, but as a high risk use cases that need to indicate trust in all cases. But I think in your case, also the non-high risk cases, you want to ensure that people are having trust. So can you share with us some, I mean, the challenges or maybe also best practice in case you have with us, how you're doing this? What are the strategies you're working on?
Yeah, thank you, Sonia, and thank you. I'm happy to be with my co-panelist here. So with regards to our strategy to deploy and to make happen the trustworthy AI, quite a number of pillars we are working on today. First of them is the data lifecycle accountability and traceability. To make data findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable across business domains. I mean, from our, because today we have several business domains. It's not only home furniture, also we are working more widely for life at home purposes. I mean, beyond home furniture. So data lifecycle accountability and traceability is really a key work stream we have inside the trustworthy AI. Of course, another layer is about robustness, including repeatability, reproducibility, reliability, resilience, and scalability of our digital solutions. We know altogether that reproducibility and repeatability avoid unintended discrimination, right? An algorithm which is not repeatable, neither reproducible, will have a different outcome for a similar context, which is by definition discrimination. So that's why really we have early stages there. Before going far to investigate fairness, etc., we need to ensure, foundations from the algorithmic design, development, and deployment perspective first, but also data. And let me continue on our effort now, and then I will provide a comment more generally. I believe also, and that's what we are really developing now, it's awareness campaign, which is a key success factor of all of these efforts, because it's not only effort from digital team, but it is really all co-worker effort to make this movement happen, because data is used by more people than only algorithmic designers and developers. So really to make it operational and happen in real life in our company, we need awareness campaign for all co-workers, co-workers in the store, in front of the customer, etc., etc. So we really focus, and I believe it's really important effort. Otherwise, we can have the best in class in terms of trustworthiness, algorithm and digital solutions, but it will not scale, and most importantly, we need metrics for all these properties. And that's why to me it's very important. But with regards to data, most of the time, what we spend effort on the, in several industrial ecosystem is behavior of algorithm, trustworthiness of algorithm, etc. But we do not, I believe, spend sufficient effort on data accountability, which is a key. We have algorithm and data. So that's why we need also measurability with regards to data accountability, which is not, to me, sufficiently, developed and discussed within industrial ecosystem. So this is first.
Thank you, Nora, and thanks a lot for giving this wide overview about all the pillars, what you're addressing. So it seems to be that you are really like having a lot of homeworks or activities that you're running and that you need to do. We will talk later also, I think, about the ecosystem and how we can collaborate, because probably it's good to do this together. I would like to go over to Julian. Julia, and I mean, you are like the very important person to scaling a research innovation ecosystem in France. As director of Grand Défi, I mean, it's amazing the work you have done there. Probably you can share a little bit what you're doing there, how you managed to build strong ecosystem in the area of trustworthy AI, and maybe you can also share with us a little bit about the challenges on the different levels you're addressing, because it seems to be that you're quite advancing a lot. So it would be great if you share with us your insights.
Well, thank you, Sonia, and thank you for inviting me. I'm really pleased to be here with you today. First of all, I would like to come back to what Lucila said. I think that industrial applications are really key and are a really huge asset for Europe in terms of AI development. And trustworthy and industrialization are really the two sides of the same coin, because when you look at industrial applications, the scalability is strongly depending on trustworthiness at the end. And we make a study with EY on the trustworthy AI market, and we see that 40 to 60% of the application in 9 industrial markets, such as mobility or Industry 4.0, are required trustworthiness in order to go to the market and to be implemented into a product. And the market figure is roughly 50 billion euro for trustworthy AI worldwide into these 9 sectors. So that's why in France, it was one of the priorities of the national strategy in 2018, launched by the French President of the Republic. And we developed what we call a Grand Défi on trustworthy AI for industry. So we have inside this Grand Défi, we have 3 main pillars. One is really dedicated to tools and methodologies. So it means that you will need to have some new tools and some new methodologies in order to implement trustworthiness into AI-based system. The second one is really on conformity assessment, and the third one is on standardization. And what is really, before telling you more about what we do in France, I would like to say that we work with BDVA on a position paper, and we also propose a standardization framework and a technical framework for speeding up industrial AI and trustworthiness. And we see that conformity assessment, standardization, and tools or methodologies are the key issues in order to manage to deploy value into business through AI technologies. In that case, it means that ecosystem is really key. Ecosystem is key because you are needed more and more competencies. You need, of course, competencies on data and AI, but you need also some competencies on safety, on software engineering, etc., etc. So that's why ecosystem is so important in order to tackle this challenge. You need, of course, startups, big company, and academic, because you need to have all these partners into your ecosystem. And it's what we try to do in France with one of the programs I manage, which is Confiance.ai. So we launch a program with a big company, with academic partner, and with also startup. So we start with 13 partners, but at the end of the year, we will be 40 partners. And we try to develop tools and methodologies in order to propose some solution for, at end, the compliance of your system regarding the future regulation in Europe. Because you will need to have trustworthiness at the data level. Noza already mentioned it, but you will need to implement also new properties into your algorithm, and you will need also to perform new evaluation So that's why you need to have an end-to-end approach in order to tackle the challenge. What's next, if I can say, we see that trustworthy AI is really key for the future of industry. And that's why we launched a new AI strategies in France, and we will dedicate 80 million euros into trustworthy AI after the investment we already done in 2018. So that's why we consider that it's really one of the priority in regard with the future EU regulation, and we think that we need to develop through a competitive ecosystem in France, but not only with Germany, with counterpart in Europe, in order to tackle this challenge and to have some solution for industrial partner, in order to be sure that at the end there will be compliance to the new regulation. Thanks. Maybe I will give you some more detail after.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks a lot for sharing your insights about what you're doing in France and about the way you're thinking about the end-to-end setup of this trustworthy AI technology. And it seems that everybody here in the round thinks that it's very a high priority. I would now hand over to Milan. I mean, Milan, you as head of data analytics and digital twin at Philips, probably you're the person to ask if it's about how to ensure good data quality and how to generate value out of data. What are you seeing as challenges and also like best practices from your background? I mean, you're in healthcare. This is a very, in terms of the upcoming AI regulation, I think this is one of the critical areas. Probably nearly all of your applications you're putting forward will need to comply to the new regulation. So let's share your thoughts on these upcoming topics.
Thank you, Sonia. So it's a great pleasure being with you also in this new edition of European Big Data Value Forum. And indeed, as you said, so I'll share a bit the industrial perspective on the adoption of AI, and obviously we in Philips we are especially focused on that adoption in the healthcare sector and the challenges to actually speed up that adoption in healthcare. Let me start first by just sharing a few opportunities and our view how AI can actually improve healthcare, and then I will move to the challenges that we see to basically deliver on these opportunities at scale and also with speed. So we believe that AI has a great potential to improve people's lives. And in Philips, we talk about healthcare continuum, so improving, their health, improving their sort of experience through the healthcare continuum, so from diagnosis to treatment to home care. And we see three ways in which AI can improve healthcare. So first of all, AI can augment the expertise of healthcare providers, can support their decision making. So healthcare is digitizing. There is a lot of data. They do not have time to look at all these data and make a good understanding of it. So helping them by automating insights creations and showing the right data to them, it's really important. Secondly, we see that healthcare is nowadays overstretched. We see that there is not enough staff, increased cost of healthcare, and AI can also address these challenges, can actually help healthcare providers to focus on patient care while taking certain routine jobs and helping actually the management of health crises and pandemics that we are facing now. And then finally, the third point is that AI can help people take better care of their health and well-being by offering personalized and actionable insights to people themselves so that they can maintain healthy habits. These are the opportunities that we are all aware of, but then the question is actually how we picture this and show actually this in real examples. And I'll just mention one from Philips where we develop an early warning score system
that basically automatically acquires patient vital signs, so automatically acquires the heart rate, the blood pressure, etc., and then it will calculate warning score whether a patient who is in a general ward in hospital will develop critical situation, and then predict actually this development in an hour or two, so to give enough time to healthcare providers to act on that. And then it is really important to show that in practice in hospitals that these type of systems that are AI enabled, that they basically really address these KPIs that I was talking about. So, for example, this one would decrease mortality rate by 20%, which is patient outcome, improving patient outcome, would decrease with 24% the ICU readmission rate, which is also related to the cost and patient outcome of hospitals, et cetera, et cetera. I think we need to ensure that we also validate those solutions, and then we basically explain better to the sector how much actually that can help them. So maybe going very briefly and talk about the challenges to accelerate this adoption of AI. I think it was already mentioned a couple of times by my colleagues in this panel. So trust is a paramount of promoting wider adoption of AI. It is, about bias, about privacy, about ethical issues. So all this needs to be addressed in order to that we ensure that basically we can accelerate with the adoption of AI. And the companies like also and Philips, they should put forward actually their basically data principles, AI principles, and ensure also that the customers are basically understanding these principles and have more trust in the solutions. And it is not only about companies; it's really about engaging and empowering citizens, healthcare professionals in healthcare sector, the private sector, and to ensure that we can get to this sustainable and dynamic AI deployments. Secondly, I think it's very important to ensure that the solutions that we are creating, that our colleagues at universities are also thinking of, are integrated into workflows of our customers, so people that are using these solutions, in our case, healthcare providers. And then it's really about empowering people to understand also these solutions, to empowering people that are using these solutions to understand this technology, so that we can actually get it used. Maybe it's also about technology itself. I think it's important that we have enough research on explainability of AI, on this reliability of AI, and ensure that there is enough investment to support that research, so that we in Europe, because we are by tradition having very, very, very good track record in the innovation in AI, that we also empower our colleagues in research and academia to actually with these elements help basically adoption of these solutions. Let me finish briefly by talking about the AI Act. I think it's in April this year, European Commission published the proposal, and I think it's really important to have a robust regulatory framework. That's very crucial. But for the healthcare sector and for the medical devices especially, these devices and the sector have been regulated already for a long time. We have medical device regulation, which is offering detailed and extensive requirements covering various aspects of the technology, actually, as also including actually the AI technology. So we believe it's really important to ensure that regulations in healthcare are sort of built on top of this regulation, and ensure that will also help to support new requirements and address these requirements in for example, medical device regulation. and ensure that we have a proper balance between innovation and regulation in Europe.
Thanks, Milan, for your wide perspective on the one side, on the opportunities, so all the use cases you're bringing forward, but also on the activities that need to be done. And it's quite impressive to see how many people need to be involved. I mean, these are the end customers, the developer at the very beginning, then I mean, all the different areas, the AI people, the data people. So it's a broad range of activities you need to bring together. So thanks a lot for sharing this and also your insight about the AI Act. Let me now move to Asuncion. Basically, what I mean, you're as professor for AI and also like vice rector in the research innovation at UPM in Madrid. I mean, you have been core in the research of AI and contributing to the BDVA strongly. So I would be very interesting to hear from you about the emerging research challenges. I mean, some of them have been already mentioned, but what was your opinion or your perspective on this? I mean, the point is that we want to speed up the adoption of AI. So basically, so how can we make this faster? And to ensure that we have trustworthy AI in the industrial setting. So I'm very curious to hear about your perspective. What are the priorities?
Okay, thank you, Sonia. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for being in this panel. I mean, there are too many challenges that has been already mentioned, but I would like to focus today in my 5 minutes about the importance of having automatic methods for testing compliance with EU principles and also with their regulations. I mean, if we go into the ethics, into the Oxford Dictionary, and we look for the word ethics, it says moral principles that control or influence a person's behavior. And when we are building artificial intelligence solutions, we are building programs that control or could control or influence on personal behavior, and we need to discover if they follow some kind of moral principles. So all of us, we know that there is not a one-size-fits-all ethics. So why? Because we have influence. We are influenced by the education, the religion, the societal principles, the government, the market, etc. So the research questions are: how can we specify the ethics of a particular AI solution? How can we verify ethical approaches in a particular AI solution? How can we ensure that all ethics or several ethics approaches are consistent among them? And how can we ensure that all ethics do not enter into conflict with other ethics or with other principles? And to do it automatically, this is too complicated. So let's move into instead of trying to verify first that the application is ethically compliant, let's see if the AI application is lawful compliant. So right now we have many EU norms and regulations, several at European and national level, and we are applying every day, like it happened with the GDPR. We also have some kind of civil and military regulations, for instance, for aircrafts that are different. We also have sector-specific norms related with health, immigration, energy, transport, and how they are integrated in the critical infrastructure and essential private and public services, especially during these crisis periods, it's really important. So how an AI application that solves these kind of problems, I mean, really follow the new norms that appear. So if we focus on this kind of norms and regulations for high-risk AI solutions, could we say that natural language is enough? I don't think so. So should we transform this kind of regulations into machine understandable format to be able to reason with them? I think that this would be the approach in order to speed up the adoption of AI. So the problem is how to specify these AI norms and regulations to be followed later on by AI solutions in a machine understandable way. How can we verify that particular AI solutions are compliant with a given set of norms and regulations? Can we do that with the state of the technology? I think that the technology right now can go into this direction, and we can provide some kind of solutions. Another important question, how can we ensure that in all these set of norms and regulations, how we can guarantee that all of them are consistent among them? And also how we can ensure that all norms and regulations do not enter into conflict. So the problem is complex, but let's say, in my opinion, it is less complex than from the ethical perspective. So in addition to these norms and regulation, and I strongly believe that we need standards. So we are, I mean, you know that I come from semantic technologies, ontology, semantic web, and these kind of things. So we usually think on standard and protocols, syntax and semantics, standards at the syntax and semantic level. But most of the time we forget about the standards, standard methodologies for specifying, developing, and validating AI solutions. A standard for defining requirements of data sets and corpuses to be used in training AI systems, and also standards for ensuring that all norms and regulations are consistent among them, and also that they do not enter into conflict. So, and having a standard is also crucial for moving towards certification. And certification is also another aspect for increasing trust in AI application. So I think that they have already done too many questions, and for the debate and just for food for thought. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for sharing your insights about, and very interesting to think about the automation of all these underlying processes and how we can move forward in this area. When I'm listening to all the panelists, I mean, one of the what you're sharing is that the situation is quite complex and that a lot of activities needs to be done. And in particular, from what I'm hearing, is that we need to join forces, that we need to cooperate, that we need an ecosystem where the synergies and also the different players that need to be integrated to address. I mean, these like a lot of tasks on different levels that need to be addressed. So I would be very much interested to I mean, the topic is how to join forces, and then who needs to join and for what reason. So basically, what do we need? How do we connect the right stakeholders? So Jill, I would be very interested in, I mean, you mentioned already many of these different initiatives and activities you're pushing forward. I mean, this is all well thought through. You're thinking about people need to be connected, infrastructure that needs to be there. But if I put the questions very simple, who needs to be connected?
Thanks for the question. I think that we need to, there are many developers of artificial intelligence in the European Union that are a little bit difficult to recognize. I'll give you an example. There are some energy companies are very intensive developers, like IKEA, as Noja says, I'm sure it is. And so all the developments that are taking place in all these different sectors need to be reconnected, because at the end of the day, the ways to improve artificial intelligence at the basic level is probably similar for everybody. And so I think what I would like to see, for example, in this public-private partnership on AI, data, and robotics, on the side of AI, I would like to see a lot of companies from all the different sectors of the economy getting together. They don't have to be, AI specialists like your company, Siemens, will certainly be in the lead of SAP, I don't know, these software companies in the lead of the European AI. But there are also companies in the different sectors, in the financial sectors, many banks develop artificial intelligence, for example. All these players should exchange and get together because they may have very similar challenges to solve and to address.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for very nice point. Milan, if you think about, you have also mentioned so many activities you're planning to put forward, and I think you're not doing it alone. And if you're thinking about joining forces, where are you looking to? So who are your friends you would like to join forces with?
We have a lot of friends, definitely. Yeah. No, thank you. I think it's really important to join forces, and for different challenges there are different needs. And let me just talk about one, which is data access. We all know that data access is very crucial because we all say, hey, AI is the engine, data is the fuel. So we need to ensure that all these researchers, industry, whoever needs access to data. Healthcare is particularly challenging, obviously, because we are talking about sensitive data. So we need to, have different stakeholders at the table to ensure that we can unlock, for example, the public data, so data from the hospitals. We need to ensure that we also have citizens there at the table, because it might be very helpful if they would donate their data for research purposes. We need all the industry, we need insurance companies, payers. So a lot of stakeholders needs to come together, and it's always depending really on the challenge that we are addressing.
So how many hours a day do you work? So many people to connect. Just kidding. Julia, you presented before and you're raising the hand. Do you want to comment on this right now?
Yeah. Just I would like to give a comment on the different sector and the interest from different sector in order to work together. Because when we build up the Grand Défi and we build up the program Confiance.ai, we spend 1 year to discuss with many sectors, and at the end we see that the main priorities, the main technological priorities between sectors such as Industry 4.0, mobility, aeronautics, energy and health are quite the same. So 80% of the problem are the same for all the industrial partners. So it means that we can work together, and we need to work together in order to have more use cases, more data, and more people that are bringing in the same environment the competencies that are needed. The other element I would like to underline also, I understand that the comment from Norbert about data and the importance of data, but when you look at the main issues in terms of trustworthy AI, it's not only a question of data, it's a question of algorithm. You need to improve robustness, for example. It's a question of evaluation. It's a question of embedded AI, because if you develop properties on a standalone AI application, and after you want to embed it into a hardware system, and you don't have at the end the same properties, such as robustness or explainability, etc., you will not have trust. So that's why an approach of integration is really key of all the issues, because you need to have all the elements bring together. So data is crucial, but it's not the only issue for trustworthiness, and you have many issues to tackle. And the question of certification is also key, because you see that there is some new approach for certification, so such as assurance case, etc. So it's something which is quite new for certain sectors, industrial sectors, and so you need to make research, but also think about industrialization, because at the end you will provide this solution to industrial in order to create value, ethical value, I mean. And the last point that I would like to mention is that conformity assessment is also key, because you have, for example, certain sectors that are really well organized in terms of conformity assessment. If you look at the health sector, or if you look at the aeronautics sectors, there are already ROCAE, EASA, etc., etc. So there is a long history in terms of certification, in terms of conformity assessment, but some of the new high-risk application and sectors are not covering by such organizations. So you will need also to implement some new conformity assessment scheme and a new governances in order to be sure that at the end, the product, the application, or the services is trustable.
Thanks a lot, Julia, for sharing. I mean, what you're highlighting is this industrial engineering approach towards AI development and ensuring that the different quality areas are there, and in a very systematic manner to ensure that you repeat and reproduce the results in again and again. So it would be very interesting, and we are talking about that we need to work together and collaborate. So I would be interested in looking at Association. You mentioned before that the automation of the research and the testing would be central, and now looking into the industrial AI engineering. So there are similar approaches coming up. How do you, with whom would you need to cooperate to move forward in these directions?
I mean, I think that in addition to the classical suspects, let's say universities, research centers, small, medium enterprises, big enterprises, we need to have the policymakers and the regulators from the very, very beginning, and also specialists in social science and also in law. This is crucial. And of course, I mean, having the standardization bodies, because this is the only way of speeding up the whole process for the development.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Let's move. I would like to move to another topic. I mean, we talked before about the AI Act, and probably this will have high impact on the way how AI products are developed. The interesting part is, I mean, what do we need to do now? I mean, it will take some years until the regulation is in practice, probably 2024. But still, we need to take action now. And I would be very much interested in what it is, what we need to do now. Nusha, I know that you are also working on transparency aspects. Do you see this also as important way for the AI regulation, or how do you see this?
Yeah, indeed. IKEA Retail, as a value-driven company, we are very much committed to align our technology to our values. And to me, it is very important to team with academia for a new generation of machine learning algorithms, which are value by design, meaning fairness by design, equity by design, transparency by design. And it is, in fact, our efforts and solutions are targeting not only customer, but also co-worker and third-party suppliers. We have a really quite a wide range of third parties. And in fact, we are targeting these three communities. So our movement today is cross-company, meaning it's not only within digital, it's really cross-company. And we have plenty of use cases, and not only delivery and logistics, but we have human resources, recommendation and search, chatbots, and also financial services, and energy, which are new investment domain of Inca. So today, to me, to make this regulation, happen, of course, we need interoperable conformity assessment, approaches in a more measurable way. Not only, but in addition, we need to be very careful about something which is crucial for the applicability of this law, which is the AI definition. Because today, today AI definition can change the scope of the applicability of the law. It was defined 3 years ago with scientists from research community and industry community, from academia and industry, with no idea behind about regulation. But today, as we are targeting, regulation of the AI impact on risky application, now, definition of AI is becoming problematic, meaning, we need to reduce the scope of AI to maybe, so that's why it is still some topics that need to be fixed. For the applicability, in an efficient way. So that's why there are really, really plenty of topics. But in fact, in the meantime, we are working on transparency at IKEA Retail. We are working on what we call customer data promise, meaning not only providing context to let the consumer have informed decision making. It is very important, but also making human-centric technology happen in real life, meaning having really feedback from the customer and having him really on the journey of the online, e-commerce that we are developing. And of course, we have been impacted with the lockdown, and our, e-commerce have been really very much deployed and scaled. So that's why today our digital services and the trust that we need really to build in there, not only, trust us, we are trusted brand, but also to build the proof of trust. And that's why we are working a lot today. We have a lot of effort to spend on this, what we call customer data promise, so that we provide a trustworthy context for our consumer, but also for our co-worker and suppliers.
Thanks a lot for sharing, Noza. That's very interesting. That the transparency is like central for the trust, right? For that, I would like to, Milan, you mentioned before that the AI, the upcoming AI Act and the healthcare sector, you already have the FDA. So basically, how do these two regulations then finally work together? So you already have to do a lot of stuff in order to get your products onto the market, to get the certification. You need to fulfill a lot of things, I assume, and you must be quite expert in this. I was wondering whether the upcoming AI Act, will it change your strategy? Do you see that there are particular actions that need to be done now by you, by the company only, or by the ecosystem in a whole part? So what are your perspective in this context?
Yeah, in healthcare sector, for us and for the other companies, I think patient safety and quality are leading. So, and that will not change. We basically already have products, and everyone has already products that are AI enabled on the market, and we try to ensure that we take proper care in the development of these products. So basically, when you train the models, ensure that you have the right data, that you avoid bias. When you deploy the product on the market, that you are doing post-market surveillance, that you are measuring performance, and then in some research efforts try to also ensure that your AI methods are maybe explainable. But I think now in the next phase we'll actually also I think European Commission and everyone will start working on the new regulation. I think it's really important to ensure that proper balance, as I said, between innovation and regulation. So to ensure that the smaller companies are able, actually SMEs are able to follow this regulation and not to put too much burden. And as I said, there is already in different sectors already regulation in these sectors, like in healthcare, the medical device regulation, and the FDA, as you said, in US, which will be which already is addressing AI. So we have to ensure that basically this is aligned.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for sharing this. I would also like to ask similar question to Lucilla. I mean, the AI Act will be there in 3 years, 2 years. And I mean, a lot of activities have been started, but what do you want the others now to do? I mean, how to ensure now this is a piece of paper, but then standards needs to be developed, conformity assessments needs to be established. So what would be your wish list in terms of things that happen in the next year? What are the actions?
Yes, first of all, we are now starting very seriously the activity in terms of standardization, because the proposed act falls into a category of legislation, of European legislation, to which also the medical device regulation applies to, for example, which is very much based on standardization. And so we are starting the standardization activities with the European standardization bodies to make sure that by the time the regulation enters in force, we have standards available. And this is going to be a very important instrument, in particular for the small, medium enterprises, who will, when undertaking a conformity assessment, simply be able to refer to the existence of a harmonized European standard to be considered compliant with the requirements that have been put in place. I also would like to reassure Milan and others that the AI proposal is constructed very much in complementarity with other regulations, such as the medical device regulation. We will not ask a developer of a medical device to undertake a conformity assessment for the medical device regulation and then go somewhere else for AI. But simply, if AI is a safety component part of that medical device, there will be a stage in the conformity assessment of the medical device conformity assessment, which will look at the artificial intelligence systems on the basis of what is proposed by the AI regulation. This is not foreseen at the moment by the medical device regulation, which looks at software, but does not really look at artificial intelligence. So we are simplifying the mechanism, simply adding a stage in an existing conformity assessment system, and will not be, requiring to go elsewhere and do another assessment or an incompatible assessment. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Lucilla, for sharing these insights. I would like to lead over. We have a nice question from Norbert in the chat. So I would like to address this to everybody. He's asking the question how SMEs can contribute to speed up the adoption of industrial trustworthy AI. So, and follow-up question, what actions would you, in your position, take for boosting their involvement? So basically what we know that for SMEs, they're very important for our industry, but sometimes it's more difficult to integrate them. Who would like to take this question?
I can start. So just maybe give an example what we do in Philips to actually try to onboard SMEs. So as a company very much involved in the healthcare sector, we obviously have platforms and a bigger market share. So what we try to do, actually, we try to in each of these platforms basically create marketplaces where we basically allow SMEs to bring very specific AI algorithms that would address certain particular needs. So if you think about medical image analysis and like, okay, helping the doctor to understand the image, then there will be a lot of algorithms needed to find each of different specific problems that people have. And no one company cannot solve this. So that's why we do a marketplace where we offer a platform for SMEs where they can actually provide on top of our solution the algorithms for particular, for example, applications in healthcare.
Okay, thanks a lot for sharing. Noza, do you have a similar approach, or how is IKEA doing in this area?
Do you hear me? Okay. With regards to SMEs?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have really very nice and wide ecosystem with whom we are working with, and definitely with regards to the trustworthy AI, framework, we intend to ensure the end-to-end, whatever our interaction. But once we work with an SME and integrate solution of SME or even another third party, in fact, we integrate all the risk and the responsibility chain in our scope. But in the same time, we have also quite interesting effort in terms of investment. We have a division in charge of investment, so we really foster all innovation in this sector, and help a lot, the SME in the context of digital innovation.
Oh, great. Thanks a lot for sharing. Julian, now you're back on stage again. I wanted to know, how are you at Grand Défi integrating, involving SMEs? So do you have some best practice you can share? So the question is how to integrate them, involve them to ensure that we speed up.
I think that it's clearly a question of ecosystem, because we have one program, and inside this program we have a specific call for project for SMEs and startups. So it's a way for us to integrate SMEs that are providing some technologies or some use cases, and they can integrate the program and the Grand Défi into this call for project. So for us, it's really important to try to have big company, SMEs, and academic partners. And we do it through a specific call for project for SMEs and startups. It's also a way, the ecosystem is also a way to decrease the investment for the SMEs, because when we look at investments that are required for trustworthy AI for industry, it's really high. So by putting the SMEs into one ecosystem with some competencies also, it accelerates the diffusion, decrease the risk, and increase the investments that are required by the SMEs in order to access to the technologies. So that's a key element.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Thanks a lot for sharing. I think time is running by, and I wanted to take the opportunity to also have a closing round for each of you. So basically the question is, in a short statement, what we're concerned about, or what we would be interesting to lead, what are the recommendations for the future? So what is central to you we should address for the future? And you might remember we want to speed up the adoption of AI through the trustworthiness. So what is your recommendation for the future? Lucilla, do you want to go first?
A very difficult question. My recommendation is that with the member states, we are able to put in place these testing experimentation facilities, and that generally speaking, we are foreseeing regulatory sandboxes in our regulation, but that there is the possibility of carrying out regulatory sandboxes and testing and experimentations for artificial intelligence. I really think this is extremely important also to attract SMEs and startups and bring innovation to the European market.
Okay, thank you. Noja, what are your key recommendations for the future? You need to unmute, yeah?
Yes. Definitely we need to keep sense and consistency of all what we are developing, in fact, and and keep in mind the impact that we can have with our AI-powered services on people on the planet. To me, it is really very important to consider people and the planet, because today we are not sufficiently, oriented digital service sustainability. I'm not talking about IKEA, but I'm talking really from the digital industry more generally. We need to work all together to make AI more sustainable, AI for green and green AI. To me, it is really very important direction, which is still in the scope of ethical AI and responsible AI, because we have, responsibility toward people and the planet, because also planet have impact, on the people lives. So that's to me really, we need to keep that in mind, because it have a lot of impact on people's lives and of course on the planet.
Thanks a lot for putting it into the larger context and importance of the topic that we need to move forward. Julien, what are your recommendations for the future?
I totally agree with the recommendation of NOSA on climate change, etc., because we see that there is a huge challenge also on AI, especially dedicated to green aspect relatively to artificial intelligence. How you can have an approach which is frugal in terms of consumption, energy consumption, and in terms of data also. And regarding the question of trustworthiness, I guess that key will be the implementation at the end. So that's why, and the way we manage to have something which is actionable for industrial partners. And for industry in Europe, because if not, we will not creating value. So one of the key elements, we propose a roadmap, especially with BDVA on the standardization and technical aspects. And I think that we need to have some key cooperation between standardization, testing, and use cases coming from industry and tools and methodologies. So these aspects are really key, and for me, we need to work together to tackle all these points.
Thanks a lot, Julien, for sharing this. Milan, what is your perspective on the recommendations for the future?
Sure, I agree with what was said. So next to that, I just would like to emphasize once more the data access, interoperability, like Julien mentioned, standardization, very, very important. And I think initiatives like GaiaX could be very instrumental in this process. Investment in research, as well investment in trials, ensuring that in Europe we can go ahead and lead in actually closing the loop and having performance measurement of our AI systems, and by that ensuring that they are really trustworthy in use. I think it's also very, very important.
Okay, thanks, Milan. Last but not least, Asuncion, what are your recommendations for the future? You need to unmute.
Okay, sorry.
Okay,
okay, so I think that we should go into two approaches. First one is to transform specific norms and regulations that are in different natural languages into some kind of machine understandable specification in order to be processed by machines and to make reason with this legislation, to do some kind of reasoning with this legislation. And second, we need some kind of automatic methods and benchmarks to verify that a particular AI solution built with standard technologies and methodologies satisfies the norms and the regulations.
Okay, thank you. So I want to thank you, all the speakers. So my main learning of the session, or it's more or less like reinforcing what we already had in discussions before. I think that the trustworthiness of AI for industrial settings, for is very, very central for Europe. I mean, it's a way forward. We can strengthen the ecosystem. Also seen in the larger picture. So we had one or the other moments where we had, it's a huge topic we need to address. On the other side, we learned that there's a lot of complexity around. We need to bring together all these different players. I think they have been mentioned very nicely. And now we need to work on this. So the areas which have been mentioned, I also get the feeling that we are converging in what needs to be done. And I'm looking forward to probably we will all work in one or the other setups and join forces. So I want to thank you all for this very inspiring discussion and all your insights from these different perspectives. And if I'm right, then I'm leading back to Ljubljana. So where's Ljubljana? Can we reconnect?
Ljubljana is calling. Thank you so much, Sonja. Dankeschön. Das war wirklich ganz toll. Thank you for being with us. I'm not alone here on stage. I'm joined by our forces who were really supporting this event through this day. So Anna is with me, Laure, and Thomas at the very end. Thomas, everybody looks very happy and satisfied. Happy with this second day, Thomas. It was actually, we did it well. We did quite well, right?
Yes, we are prepared for the song contest to come back.
Touche they go to us. Yes.
No, we had an intensive discussion today. I think very good input. I think what is, let's say, like a red line, collaboration with impact. Let's phrase it in this way. We see this in the last panel. We have seen this. We have seen this by the data space business lines. Also in the morning with a high level panel, where's the need? Come on, we have some kind of nuggets around how we bring this closer together to great impact.
So Sonja was actually talking about the future at the end with her panelists. What would be the main topic for BDVA in the future?
You know, BDVA is, and now make it again explicit, big data value association, also data value, to achieve data value in the area of industrial AI, with the data spaces, with the cooperation in data spaces, and with a trusted and secure or safe, or however you name this, infrastructures. That's exactly what is, let's say, for me, the topic.
Anna has been working very hard today, not only introducing panels, but as well presenting them. But Anna, how can people get engaged? How can they engage with the BDVA?
So thank you, Moitza. So clearly, you know, with events like this one, so we still have 3 days ahead. Full of interesting sessions. I mean, today, Monday, we started. We had a lot of good stuff. And after today, we have still 3 days to go. So, of course, we organize these events, this type of events, different formats, etc., quite often. But also, I mean, for those organizations that are still not a member of the association, we are quite an open association. Anyone can apply, of course, anyone working in the domain of data and industrial AI, and in particular interested in industry-driven research and innovation. So we are very much open. If what you saw today, you saw yesterday, what you see the rest of the week resonates, you want to get engaged in ongoing basics, I mean, we are open to welcome you in the association. We have very active working groups, Moitza, very good task forces, and people really dedicating extra time because they have their jobs, but dedicating time to build something together with others, and that's very impressive to see. And we have working groups, task forces in many, I mean, in most of the topics that we have been discussing today, in many verticals, and it's actually our members, they are the ones that make the difference, and together they're really building a future for this topic. So we are very proud of them, and again, we welcome anyone interested in joining forces to us to come to the association.
And we really had guests and speakers from so many different fields, right?
Indeed.
From politicians to the industry, to research. And Laure, you've been involved with the forum for all the 5 years, right? From Versailles, Vienna, Helsinki, Berlin. And you can really tell and tell us a little bit more how this event has been evolving.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, 2017 was the first time we did this EBDVF, and that was called, and this type of format. We actually had some events before, I mean, when we started, but I think, in terms of size, in terms of variety, as Anna mentioned, different members, diversities of countries as well, and different technologies, different domains. That's also an evolution that we see. More and more domains and more people in each domains. So that's an interesting part. And I think, you mentioned Versailles in 2017. So this was the first time we did this format with NOSA, by the way. 2018 in Vienna, 2019 in Helsinki, last year the Berlin online whatsoever we call it. So I hope Ljubljana this year. I hope next year we won't have any more plexiglass wall. But that's no. I think it's interesting. I mean, in terms of topic, the evolution is small. I mean, it's difficult to see, but of course, when we look backwards, yes, there is an evolution. But we already had the same topics, more or less. I mean, AI was already a topic for quite a long time, and still will be. So I hope we will see this progress again and again. And
but Thomas, there are challenges for the future for this forum as well.
For sure. We have, in the first half of the year, we have typically our data weeks. And next year it will be in France for the presidency. So you have seen Julien here on before. We are just speaking about this, and you can imagine that this trusted AI aspect would be one of the main topics which we are addressing together. And you can book your calendar. Don't ask me when it is precisely. Not in January, maybe in April, May. We will have the event in France, and for sure the European Big Data Value Forum. And you're absolutely right. Don't ask me how many speakers of how many regions we have from different stakeholder groups will be in the Czech Republic, I hope. Without walls, let's phrase it this way. Without the plexi topics between us. I have to be careful. And I'm very sure that we will have, again, two fantastic events next year. Besides the activity group meetings, like Anna said, where we're setting up also regarding data spaces, industrial AI, additional topics where we can satisfy the needs, what is to be clarified, from the community, from all of us.
Yeah, we're all looking forward to better times, easier times for organizing events like that, without walls, like you mentioned. But we did it so far. This was the second day. Everybody really happy. And it was it Thomas Edison had this beautiful thought. He said that success is 10% inspiration and 90% perspiration, Anna, and it does apply to the EBDVF as well.
So that's a good reflection, Moitza. I agree. And I think we can really use this nice quote to also think about, we are here on the stage. We had today fantastic speakers. We have many people who are organizing sessions. But this is probably the 10%. And the 90% is the people who are more invisible to those of you that are out there, and are the people really doing the work. And it's difficult to mention them all, but first I would like to thank some people present here in Ljubljana. So you can see probably the team. So you are seeing us, we are seeing what you are seeing now. So the whole team doing the production is quite amazing. Also, we have colleagues here in Ljubljana. We have our communications manager. So it's Jaco. So working very, very hard. And besides Jaco, you can see Flavio from the ICT Association. So we've been organizing this together. And now online, you can see also my colleague Mattia, operations manager, and my great colleague Sina, international officer in the secretariat. And they have been really working extra hard. You cannot imagine. And it's thanks to these people and many other people that what we are doing today is possible. So I mean, it's difficult now to ask for a big applause and all.
Yes, we have a big team over here. Let's.
This is the kind of things that are still online. We haven't found a way to celebrate as we should, but at least from my heart, thank you to all of you who are working so hard to make this happen, and don't have the opportunity to be here in front of everyone.
That was so nice, Anna. Really, thank you for thinking about everything and everybody, and we still have enough people, for a big round of applause, as you could hear. So really, thank you. This completes our second day. Thomas, you wanted to add something? I mean, you're in charge after all, you can.
We should not forget Anna. She is a master who are orchestrating everything.
Yeah, and also from my side, I want to give a special thanks to our sponsors. So that's the other, we have like 50% the team and 50% is all those organizations that also make this event happen. And all the companies, the research institutes, all the projects that contribute with so much content and really make this event happen. So also from my side, a big thank to you all, and we hope that we hope continuing together working with you. Thank you very much.
So this is the happy end of day number 2. 3 more to go. So do have some rest or some nice company, and we will see you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye from Ljubljana.
Thanks. Bye-bye.